we're in the hunt for headphones in the studio. So hopefully, what we'll do is we'll figure out a way to get the caller on the air, maybe over the big speakers. But I've done this in the past. What we do in a situation like this, you get the caller on the air and you turn off the microphone so you can then hear the caller. Then you pot what we call pot the caller down. Then you turn the microphone back on so we can answer the questions. But we do have headsets here somewhere for everybody. But we've got a couple of different guests in studio with us because we're talking about firearms today. And of course, John Statler is joining us again. I was going to say, Wally Pipp, when he left the lineup for a day when he wasn't feeling well with the New York Yankees, Lou Gehrig came in. Pipp never got to play again. So John Statler is here, perhaps maybe being that Lou Gehrig to the boss, if you will, because Forrest Anderson is got another commitment this morning, and so it's John's second visit with us, and
Yeah, see if I can force Forrest out and take his job.
yeah.
See what happens.
And of course, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense in studio with us too. And I should point out that Todd's an old radio guy. Forrest works before a microphone. John doesn't do it on a regular basis, but you stepped in a couple of weeks ago and you were great.
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit off the top of the hour today, and we do this on Friday mornings. Obviously, we were away for the holiday last week, but we do this on Friday mornings because it's an opportunity to talk about firearms and every aspect of them. I mean, from safety to training to maybe what's the best thing to buy. And on that last note today, Todd had sent me a note a couple of days ago where this time of year, a lot of people are thinking about buying firearms as gifts, but I buying a gift for anybody is not easy, and so you really have to think about who you're buying for. And when it comes to a firearm, because it's not necessarily that it's not like going out and just buying something small. I mean, it's a big investment in many cases. So when you're buying for somebody, a few things I guess you got to keep in mind. Number one, who are they? How big are their hands? Any number of things come into this.
Yeah, who are they? How big are their hands? What are they going to do with it? Are they just going to take it to the range and shoot it? Are they going to carry it? Where are they going to carry it? You know, the best thing to do is when you go, it's hard to buy a gun for someone. The best thing is to have them take them out shooting with someone else. Maybe don't tell them that you're going to try to buy them something for Christmas, but take them out shooting. Let them shoot and experience all different kinds of guns. You want to get one because a gun is a personal thing for each person, and so you could even look into buying. I would imagine you guys maybe do something like this, some kind of gift card or gift certificate or something, so that person can come in and get something that fits them. Am I correct?
Yeah, you can always come in and do kind of a little gift card, prepay it. Is one of you're right on that. A big thing is.
John, I'm going to have you the microphone over a little closer there. So
All right, now can you hear me?
yeah, a little bit better.
All right, now okay. So yeah, the big thing with it is first of all, is it reliable? But second is does it fit their hands? And you're right. Is their hand big enough? Is it too small, too big? We find women especially are really good about saying, "I hate the way that fits my hand." Men, we look at something, we're like, "That's cool. It's gonna fit my hand."
I'll make it work.
Yeah,
I'll
make it
make it
work.
work.
Yeah, especially so if you're gonna buy something for your wife, girlfriend, that kind of stuff. Have her like you're saying, shoot different guns, see what she likes, doesn't like.
And it's amazing too because I've got my wife's she's got a couple guns, and they're nice guns. And she's real little. She's real short. She's got really tiny hands, and she can shoot them all day. I pick up that gun and shoot it, and it hurts. I do not like to shoot that gun. It's a little ultra lightweight or featherweight or whatever you want to call it, 38 special. I hate that thing. It hurts every time I pull the trigger. She can shoot it all day and looks at me and laughs. And I'm 3 times her size. My hand's 3 times bigger than hers, and I cannot stand that thing. So a gun is a real personal item.
Now, the thing is, you may really care about this person, so you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go buy them something from Springfield. But you're talking, putting out a little bit of money in the beginning if you do that, where you don't know if they're going to necessarily use that gift a lot. You don't know how a good starter, a pistol especially, a good starter, and we're not talking about a foot race here or anything, but a good starter pistol doesn't necessarily cost $1,500. You might want to start with something a little bit less, and then when they get the hang of it, maybe then next year you buy them something that's really, really top of the line.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. But then it goes back to you want to get them something that's reliable. You want to get them something that they can carry. Well, we were just talking about it before we started. There's guns you can get for 150 bucks. Would you put your life on a $150 gun? Well, maybe, but you can get, when we sell these Taurus PT-111s, these things are amazing. You're looking like out the door taxes and everything, 285. So yeah, you're not paying $1,500, but you're still getting a solid gun that I would trust my life to and carry.
Yeah, and just like anything, whatever you get, whatever gun you get that person, you know, don't let the gift in there. Take them out. Show them how to use it. Get them a class. Take them out. Let's shoot it. They have to know how to use it. Just buying it, having it sit in the case on the nightstand isn't going to do a bit of good if you've never picked it up, learned how to use it, and pulled that trigger.
I have a friend who grew up in rural Ohio, so he grew up, with firearms and knows how to use them. Then he spent 20 years in the military, where you get some pretty good training there too, for obvious reasons. And he decided a few years ago, just for home defense, to go out and pick up something on his own. And then he thought, I've got to get something for the wife. He ended up buying her a Taurus, and she loves it apparently, and just it works out fine. So it was a good gift, and it's going to be reliable, I would assume, in this situation.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things, whether you come into my shop or you go to Todd's class, ask us, say, I'm thinking about this gun. Is it reliable? And we'll tell you straight up because we see hundreds of guns come through my shop, through his class. We know what works, we know what doesn't. And, if you come in and say, I want to buy this gun, I'll tell you straight up, a great gun, or maybe we should look at something else.
Any times you try to tell people, I don't mean to
Oh,
interrupt,
you're
but
fine.
anything you'd recommend people stay away from?
It kind of, well,
Unsafe guns.
unsafe guns. There's only about two or three that I would name by name. You got a lot of guns that were made in California back in, we'll call it the day. Ravens, Lorsons, things like that. Uh, they were just kind of made cheap. Bricos, they don't tend to hold up very well. And, I know I'm going to get somebody call and say, well, I have a Brico and I've shot it
Yeah.
for 30 years. They used to make the frames out of a lot of kind of alloys that didn't hold up. So those three, but other than that, most of the stuff today is going to shoot.
I've had one of each of those come through my class, and I can tell you that before the end of the day, those people who brought them in were just a little disappointed in them. And I don't blame them, and I just let them shoot them as long as it's going to be safe. I just let them shoot, and then let them make that decision on their own. It's not my place to come out and say, "Yeah, put that gun away. That's not a good gun. You're not going to like it." Another thing I want to throw out here though is if you are buying someone a gun for a gift, okay, like I said, don't let it in there. I do gift certificates for concealed carry classes, for gun safety classes. All you got to do is get a hold of me, call me, area code 620-794-6223, and just work with me, and we will set it up. I can print something up on my computer. I can get it to you. You can give it to them. I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
And so your business cards are available at Washington Street Pawn, and the number is on there for people who'd like to give you that
Yep.
call. And at Washington Street Pawn, John, how do people go about getting there? Because some folks who might be listening in the Mid-Acasha region and other places probably thinking, okay, Twin Falls, but where?
Okay, the easiest way to tell you to get there is if you go to the intersection of Addison and Washington, you keep going south, and you're going to keep going south until you see us on the left-hand side. You're not going to make the turn to second. Just keep going south, and you're going to run right into us.
And it's going to be fairly visible because Forest often has a couple of really old cars parked outside, or trucks or Volkswagen buses or something of the
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Look for the used car lot, and we also painted a big red stripe on the top, so it's easy to see white and red buildings, so you'll be able to see
Yeah,
it.
that makes it very clear. I pass by it, of course, coming to and from work every day, so get an opportunity to see it, and yeah, that's very eye catching. We wanted to point out too, as well, there are a lot of firearms that are being manufactured in places like the Philippines. Some have great reputations, but some are being manufactured out in the jungle, and who knows what you're getting in that situation. How do you go about if you come in and buying something, and it may be from a foreign country? How do you go about verifying that this is going to be one of the better firearms that were manufactured there, or versus a knockoff?
The biggest thing you want to look at is things like, does it have a serial number? Especially when you're buying from, not from a shop, but if you were just buying on the street, does it have a serial number? Does it look right? If you look at it and you're like, something's off about it. Does it have proper stampings? Does it, if it's made overseas, it has to have an import mark. So if you're looking at a gun that's supposedly made in Brazil and it doesn't have any import mark, maybe there's something wrong with it. But a lot of times you can look at something and just go with your gut. It's one of these things too where this gun is a $1,500 gun and this guy's going to sell it to you for $300. Well, it's either stolen or it's a knockoff made in the jungle. And that's kind of the way to protect yourself. The other thing you can always do is take a picture of it, bring it to us, and we'll say, that looks fine. Or you could even call the police department with the serial number and say, I'm going to buy this gun. Can you run this serial number? And they will be happy to run that number for you.
I was going to say, we've got a lot of great manufacturers within the United States. It's still one area I think that we do very well at when it comes to manufacturing. But you've got the Germans, You've got the Brazilians, you've got the Filipinos, and some other countries too now that are getting very, very adept at making some fine firearms too.
Yeah, we're seeing that. Everybody's making a good gun. It used to be there, it was American guns. They were kind of the top, Americans, Germans. But now you're seeing these guns coming from Brazil. They're great. You're seeing the Filipino guns. They're, certain ones are really, really good. And it's as long as you're getting a good, solid gun, you're going to be okay. Like the 1911s coming out of the Philippines, most of them are really, really good.
This is a great time of year too if you're a gun guy. We got SHOT Show next month. I'm not attending, unfortunately. SHOT Show, and that all the new guns are coming out. In fact, I think they've already released a few of them. Maybe aren't necessarily out for sale, but you get the articles, talking about the upcoming new firearms. It's a great time of year to be a gun guy.
I was going to say, I was reading about that the other day, and it's like being a kid in a candy shop, right? When you walk through there.
Oh yeah, you can't see all of it in a couple days. You got to pick and choose what you really want to see.
I will be going in 2018 is my goal. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, but I will be there.
Tell us a little bit of detail about how people can get there, where this is, and dates and times and
I don't
etc.
know the exact date. It's usually in January.
Right?
It's they hold it in Vegas. But you have to be in the industry, and you got to be able to prove that you're in the industry to go there. Then they send you. You got to. I don't know. I've looked into it, and I don't want to get into the details. But you have to prove that you're there. You got to have a website, and I don't. They probably want your firstborn too. But you've got to be in the industry to get there. You can't just walk in off the street. Um, but it's kind of been a dream of mine for a while. So eventually I'll get there, and then I've made it. I'm done. I can die.
On a regional level, we have a lot of various trade shows and the like that people. I mean, and they don't necessarily have to be dealers or trainers that that you can actually get into just as an individual. And I'm sure that we have some in the Idaho area, Utah area, where people can actually go and actually get some good information out of somebody too.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of these manufacturers go to these gun shows and these trade shows, and that is the great thing about living in this area is you can literally do anything you want with guns. You can get trained, you can buy a gun, you can buy a custom holster, you can get a custom gun made, all here in this area, and that is the greatest thing about living here. We don't have to import anything.
We want to point out we've got a break coming up, but we'll be taking some of your telephone calls too. This morning, question or comment about firearms, training, safety, anything, brands. Feel free to give us a shout after the break, 7360300. Another little twist to all of this is there was a story out of one of the newspapers, I think in Idaho Falls or Rexburg this past week, that says that even though we have permitless carry now in Idaho, that the applications are way, way up for permits. And we'll talk a little bit maybe why that is a little later in the show too as well. It's 27 right now. John Statler joining us. He's here from Washington Street Pond. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Was waiting for the music to tell us that we were returning. And of course, we've got Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, John Statler from Washington Street Pond, Bill Colley with you as well. Discussion today, well, we'll just say about guns. That's probably the best way to put that. Long guns, short guns, pistols, revolvers, shotguns, rifles, you name it. We're discussing all of these things and issues related to those. It's 9:20, well, coming up on 9:23, 26 right now. And we have a caller joining us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm enjoying listening to you. My question may seem a little weird. It's about an old Damascus double-barreled shotgun that used to be my great-grandmother's, and I recently moved here from out of state and need to get it insured. What are they worth now?
Good question.
Well, we get that question every day. The best thing to do is bring it down, let us take a look at it because it really matters what's the make, what's the model, what year it was made. There's about 5 or 6 different things that we need to look at. But if you bring it on in, we can look it up in our books and we can tell you, what does the book says it's worth. And that's what they'll usually insure it for is what the book, there's a blue book, just like there's a blue book for cars, there's a blue book for guns. And we'll look it up there and tell you what it's worth. I can even write you up something and saying, this is the gun, this is the serial number, this is what the blue book is.
Caller, anything else you wanted to...
It was a Parker, I believe.
What was that again?
A Parker?
Okay, yeah. Now, still, it depends on when it was made and exactly what model. But yeah, bring it on in. And this is something a lot easier to be done in person. I couldn't even guess without seeing it.
I was able to just have a gun like on the floor in the car when I drove around and didn't have to have a permit or anything else. What is the law in Idaho concerning that?
You can, yeah, right now you can, since they passed constitutional carry, when you're driving in your car, you can have a handgun in there. Um, it used to matter whether or not it was concealed or open. That's just kind of gone out the window now since constitutional carry. You don't have to have a permit. You can conceal it. You can whatever you want to do. Hide it in the trunk. Have it laying on the seat next to you. Now, if you get pulled over in Idaho, you do not have to inform the officer that you have one. That's a personal decision in the state of Idaho. I personally, this is coming from Todd, recommend that you tell the officer that you do have a firearm in the vehicle so there's no surprises if you're looking for your wallet or purse or whatever and you open the glove compartment and a gun falls out, because their reaction is going to be totally different than if you say there's a gun in there and that's where my wallet is. So just be conscientious of that. They just want to go home safe at the end of the day too. So
Caller, hope.
Well, now when I stop at a rest stop in Idaho, can I carry that gun in the restroom with me without a permit, or do I need a permit?
carry that gun in the state of Idaho, concealed or open, into the restroom with you. No problem, no legal problems, as long as you're not in a school or a federal building or a state building, that kind of thing.
I want to thank you for the call, and we wanted to point out too that there are certain restrictions still, and you go into a federal building, they'll find out quickly because you got to go through that metal detector.
Yeah.
So that part of it you got to keep in mind. We have another caller, I think, looking to join us, and I do want to point out it's 9:25. It's 27 right now. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Caller, go ahead.
Thank you. Does it matter, like the lady, just the caller that was there, does it matter whether you're in the city or the county on these carry and kind of the new carry regulations, concealed and whatever?
No, it does not. Before this new law went into effect, you could conceal carry without a permit in the county. But when you were in the city, that's when you ran into problems. Because this new law went into effect, you can carry concealed in the city, in the county. It does not matter. You are good to go. Obviously, coming from me and other people, I still recommend a class just to learn the laws. It's good to know where you can and can't go, and all the lethal force laws and just basic gun safety. But you can actually legally carry without a permit in either the city or the county in Idaho. It does not matter.
I want to follow up on that, and I want to thank both of them for their calls. We saw this apparently spike in people looking for permits. So then the question becomes, all right, if you don't need one, then what are we seeing?
I think you're seeing people being responsible, and I think you guys might have a different take on this, but what it is it's in the news all the time now, and you can carry in Idaho without a permit, but people are being responsible. They want to know the lethal force laws. You got a lot of new people, that are coming to carry, that are buying guns. They need to know how to use them. They need to know how to run them safely. They need to know all the basics of fundamentals of shooting, of marksmanship, of all that good stuff. And that pleases me because I agree with the new law. I do agree with that, but I still think that I was afraid that someone who had never handled a gun before was going to go out and buy a gun. They were going to load it. They were going to shove it in their waistband, and they're going to carry it around town, which, if you're doing it incorrectly, is very unsafe, especially if you've never shot that gun before. So it pleases me, just tickles me to no end to see people still looking for a class.
Or if you're going to go to maybe Wyoming or somewhere, you need that reciprocity, you need
Yes.
that permit for that reason.
Yes, you do. And I believe the article that you mentioned earlier, I think it said 37 states, something like that.
Right.
And so, yeah, if you are going to leave the state, you do need the reciprocity. And then some of the big states that people really like are Wyoming. Nevada is a big one. Nevada's got some crazy gun laws that you need to know about, but they will recognize the enhanced permit. That's a must. And then the state of Washington. A lot of people from here go to the state of Washington, and it's recognized up there. If you're going to Oregon, you're out of luck. But there's different things you can do there. So
We want to point out too as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of these things in the next half hour, as well as take some of your telephone calls too. But I just want you guys to repeat contact information for your businesses. First of all, we'll start with John Statler from Washington Street Pawn.
Okay, we're on Facebook. We have all kinds of social media out there, and our phone number is 208-735-0012.
And of course, Todd for Patriot Defense.
Yep, I'm on Facebook as well. You can find me there under Patriot Defense. You got my number. You can call me or text me at area code 620-794-6223.
I was going to say, for people out there who are trying to write that down really fast, they can always listen to the videos after the program too.
I buzzed through that so fast. I apologize.
Well, that's the thing though. We should note that we're trying to at least every week. Might have missed one or two, but we try to put up a video after the show so people who didn't get all the details can go back and listen one more time. And I usually send them out to the two of you, so I know you both got quite a collection at both businesses that we're building on right now. Want to point out we'll have another half hour of the discussion ahead in just a few minutes. It's 27. It's coming up on 9:30. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Talking firearms this morning, and of course Todd Eccles is here for Patriot Defense, and John Statler is joining us as well from Washington Street Pawn. Forrest has another commitment this morning. It's coming up on 9:34. It's 26. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We were just commenting off air, our previous two callers in the last segment, both women. Now, we're told a lot of times by people that women don't have any interest in firearms, but obviously they do. And more, they're realizing that self-defense, this is a great equalizer because, if you run into a guy who's 6'2" and 240, he's going to manhandle you. But on the other hand, if you know what you're doing and you have a firearm and you're trained, got good muscle memory, it's not only an equalizer, it's the dominator in that situation. So I just wanted to pass that along. I know that before we took the calls, we were talking a little bit about training and permits, and I know we were going to mention something in the last segment. I don't know that we got to it. Did we?
I don't think so. We want to talk about what to expect the first time you carry a firearm. So you go and you get your gun, you go down to Washington Street Pawn, you pick up your gun, you take a class, you get your permit, you're going to carry this gun now. Okay, there's a lot of different things you have to take into consideration. I'm not going to get into great detail on any of them. We'll just touch on them. One of them is you need to have a good holster. You need to figure out how you're going to carry this gun. You need a good, proper holster is going to protect the trigger, going to retain that firearm, have good retention. Okay, is going to hold that gun in place, so it will not, you'll have no accidents. You'll have no, negligent or accidental discharges. And then you need to figure out how you're going to carry it. A lot of people, we've been raised since we were real little. Don't load the gun unless you're ready to shoot it. Don't load the gun unless you're ready to shoot it. If you carry a gun for personal protection and you do not carry it like this, you need to practice it. But I always encourage everyone to carry with a round in the chamber. You do that because that's one less step you have to worry about. If I'm out in town and I've got my 3-year-old son with me and I'm holding his hand, with on my left side, and something happens and I need to get my firearm out, I do not want to let go of his hand, draw my gun, and rack the slide to chamber around. I want to be able to keep hold of him, pull him behind me, be able to draw my gun, and use it right then and there without having to worry about racking the slide. And today's guns, some of them don't actually have manual safeties. A lot of them don't. But they have other integrated safeties, trigger safeties, grip safeties. And if you're using a proper holster on top of that, you're going to be 100% completely safe. That gun is not going to fire unless the trigger is depressed. Now, there's all different kinds of firearms, and I think you wanted to touch on 1911s. There's a different way to carry 1911s.
Yeah, we were talking about this during the break. 1911s are kind of one of the harder ones to carry, but easier ones to shoot. But the 1911, the big thing is you can have one in the chamber and the hammer back in the safety on, and it'll be perfectly safe. You have to remember 1911s have two safeties. You have that grip safety and you have that frame safety. So when you carry a 1911, you have to have the hammer back, because if the hammer is not back, you can pull that trigger all day and nothing's going to happen. So as far as a carry gun, a 1911 is a little complex, but if you practice with it, go take the class, Todd will teach you how to shoot it, and you get into that muscle memory, it'll be a great gun. So we were just talking about that it is a little hard to carry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not the one for the brand new gun owner to pick up and carry. I like 1911s. I've been doing this for years. I still don't have one. Okay, but we went into that a couple episodes ago, a couple shows ago,
You get some hate
and I
mail.
don't need any more emails.
Along with the mystique, it's like the Colt 45 had that mystique, and it's just it's the legend. That's what really comes.
We'll shoot it at the range.
But here's a quick note. You mentioned this. A lot of people still favor revolvers, and if you're in a situation like that, and let's say you've got 6 or 8, you don't really have time to sit there and suddenly start filling those chambers, right?
Right. Then there's options for that. If you like revolvers, that's great. Okay, I can shoot a revolver just as good as anyone else. I do have a few. They're not my favorite, but if you run that revolver dry, 6 rounds, 8 rounds, whatever that thing holds, instead of digging through your loose change and your keys for extra rounds, I make what they call speed loaders, and you can actually get them to you can stick those in your pocket, and without explaining them, it holds all your rounds in the exact same shape as your cylinder, and you drop them in all in one time, and then turn the knob and pull it out. It's that easy. It's that quick. Practice how you're going to carry. Practice with what you're going to carry. Train, train, train. Learn how to do it so you can do it in your sleep. It's the same way with a That's the same way you need to do with a revolver and a semi-automatic to a 1911. That's the only way you're going to develop that muscle memory and get proficient at it.
I was going to say, there are also options. You can buy these trainers for your home where you can just, and it just gives you the dot, right? And
Hmm.
you can use those while you're in your living room and moving around, and you don't have to worry about putting anything through the wall. I mean, you're just basically you're getting the motions down.
Well, right, and there's that, and so it's like they're like laser trainers, is what you're talking about. Then you can also go out and buy dummy rounds, okay? And I made my own and painted them bright orange, and I know they're unloaded, but anyhow, go buy dummy rounds. They're bright red. You can use them in revolvers, semi-autos. You can get them all different calibers, okay? And you can practice in your house. Obviously, aim the gun in a safe direction. Make sure there's no live ammo in the room, okay? You just safety, safety, safety always. But you can draw that revolver, bang, 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 bang. You run it dry. You can kick that cylinder open, drop it out. You can have your dummy rounds in your speed loader and practice speed loading. Do the same thing with a semi-auto and with magazines. In fact, I've been known to have a pile of magazines on the table, unloaded, and I just sit there and just real quick without looking, just drop that magazine and rechamber another one, quick, 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 and it's all repetitive.
Good, more coming up. Final stretch run of the program in just a few minutes. Talking firearms today, and of course, if you have a question or comment, feel free to give us a shout in the next segment of the program. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I neglected, by the way, to tell you what the telephone number is if you've got a question or comment for us. It's 736-0300, 736-0300. John Statler is here with us from Washington Street Pond, and Todd Eccles. And, of course, he's with Patriot Defense. He's got a class coming up, I would imagine, sometime soon again, too. Coming up on 942-27, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Something you guys were just talking about in that short break that you wanted to mention before we got too far along in the final segment here.
Yeah, we were talking about carrying in holsters, and guys, they will spend all this money on a gun. They get a great gun, they take a great class, and then they go buy the cheapest holster they can get their hands on. And I'm not saying you need to buy a $1,000 holster or anything, but it helps to have a good one. A good one that you can draw from, that stays open, that you can put the gun back in. And we were talking about in the beginning of this segment is we have so many people that make stuff here in this area, like the guy that makes rock holsters. He will custom make you a holster that you can carry it where you want to carry it. You can have the cant you want. It'll be molded for your gun, and that really helps when you're in one of these situations.
And it depends on too, as far as when we're talking about holsters, it depends on your body type. Where you carry it. Some people carry it right at 3 o'clock, right on their side, like law enforcement does, but they carry it in the waistband, which is concealed. Some people carry appendix carry, and some people don't like that.
Well, if you're skinny like Todd, you can. If you're more of a peanut
You know,
M&M shape like me, you
That
can't.
that was my goal to get into shape, was I wanted to be able to appendix carry, and I do appendix carry now, and I do like it. I switch back and forth, but I do enjoy it. But whatever you do, get a good quality holster, something that's going to protect a firearm. Another thing to worry about or to think about when you're carrying a firearm is, am I printing? And you ask what printing is. Printing is when you are carrying your firearm concealed and you're carrying it on your waistband. Your shirt is over it, but everyone can see the mistake. Knows no mistake. You see the shape of a gun protruding through your skin-tight T-shirt that you're wearing. Okay, when you carry a gun, if you want to conceal it and you're doing it correctly, no one should know you have it. You have to. It's a lifestyle. You have to dress around the firearm, cover it up, wear a little bit bigger shirt. When I go buy pants, I buy pants that are 2 inches too big for me to have room for my double stack firearm, my VP9 that I carry. That's just the way I do it. I've been doing that for years. I really like sweatshirts. This is the best time of year for concealed carriers.
Yeah, hooded sweatshirts are
Hooded
perfect.
sweatshirts, coats, fantastic. But let me point out this: that if you do carry this time of year, which if you're going to carry, you should carry all the time. practice drawing with a sweatshirt on. Practice drawing with a coat on. There's different ways to do it. It's hard to explain, but you just practice doing it so you're proficient at it. You don't get tangled up in your garments.
That's why I like hooded sweatshirts and baggy cargo pants because of all the great things you can carry. We've got a caller with us. It's 9:44:28 right now. And I want to point out you're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Caller, you're on the air. You're up next.
Good morning, guys. I just want to back up what you're saying about the holsters. People spend a little more money on those if possible because I've witnessed guys that are supposed gun guys show up and have some kind of a flimsy thing and drop their gun on the floor and kick it several times as they're walking. And, you know, nothing will put people in danger more than stuff like that. Thank goodness he did have a good gun at internal safeties and, you know, nothing bad happened. But we were in a place where there was a lot of people and could have been a really bad deal. So spend some money on a holster.
You know, I even, and I want to thank him for the call. I used to work with a friend. He'd been a police officer for many, many years. And he was in a restaurant where they had going back and forth to the bathroom, these old Western swinging doors. And he stopped in at the restaurant after work. And of course, he still had his, back in those days, a service revolver. And he went to the bathroom and he came back out. And when he went to hit the doors to go through, sort of got caught and it spun him around that he fell down and his service revolver skidded across the floor of the restaurant. So it can even happen to the people who have the best training.
You know, and you can have a really good holster too, and that's what I recommend. You know, don't buy an $800 gun and go out and buy a $12 holster. It just doesn't work out that well. But a little story on Todd here. You know, I'm not perfect. I've had my moments. I've never had a gun fall out, but I have been sitting in like metal folding chairs. Had my gun as about 430 on my waist. Leaned all the way back in the chair, went to stand up, and the gun hooked on the chair and lifted the chair right up with me. With it, the gun stayed in the holster. And I got the chair off real quick and went, "Ooh, just make a note. Don't lean all the way back in these chairs when you got your gun with you." But stuff happens. But we need to try to mitigate that and handle that the best way we can, and that's by getting a good holster.
You know, you don't have, and you know, you're talking about with a holster. When I was a teenager, I think when I was 14, I was playing hockey. I got new goaltending pads. And these things, you know, they look like they're comfortable, but they're hard as a rock, basically. And I had to spend hours going down to my knees and quickly getting back up to get them so they'd flex. That's fine. And a ball player, maybe a baseball player, oils the glove and then they work it for a while before they use it on the field. You don't have that opportunity with a holster. I mean, you don't have the time to keep, you know, working it out, going back and forth with it like that because it's an immediate thing. You're going to have an immediate use for it. So that's got to be, I think, a bit. It's not like you're playing a ball game in any stretch.
You know, I know what you're getting at. I do tell everyone, even when you buy a gun, don't go home and put that gun on your hip and carry. That gun kind of needs to prove itself. You need to run a whole bunch of rounds through it, a bunch of defensive rounds, 200-300 defensive rounds. Make sure that gun's going to function right. If your life's going to depend on it, it needs to work. Kind of the same way with a holster. There's different types of holsters, and there's all Kydex holsters, which they mold to your gun, which are hard and rigid, and your gun's going to stay in them. And then there's hybrid holsters, where there is a Kydex or plastic shell that's molded to your gun, but it is attached to a big chunk of leather that goes against your skin. And those ones actually, you talked about molding the glove to fit you. Those ones actually, I always encourage people, wear them around, wear them with the gun, wear them without the gun, because those will actually mold to fit the shape of your body, and they can actually be really, really comfortable. And it's just like any other gear, you know, you want to test it. It needs to prove itself before you depend on it. So I say, you know, break it in first, break it into your house, and then go out and use it. I mean, maybe that's just me, but
No, I think you're right. And one of the things I like about the Kydex is you can actually change the tension on that holster. The
yeah.
tension is what's holding the gun in. So, you know, go to the class and, you know, draw it. And if it's too hard to get out, you take a screwdriver and you loosen the tension. If it falls out, then you tighten it up. And that's something Todd can help you with, you know. But
hmm
yeah, you're right. You want to draw that over and over and over again and get it nice, smooth, like you're not jerking it out of there.
and it'll
You know,
break itself in
yeah,
too
it'll
after
break
a while.
itself in. Yeah.
There are people. Some women carry. They'll put something in a purse instead, so they don't need a holster, right? I mean, and you. I mean, this is obviously in case you have a quick need for it. But a lot of even men are carrying in various places in deep pockets and things like that too, right?
Yeah, and if you're gonna carry like in your pocket, a lot of will wear like cargo type pants or shorts, and they'll carry in their pocket. If you're gonna carry in your pocket, make sure you don't put anything else in that pocket except for that firearm. And they actually make holsters, and they aren't a Kydex holster. They're more of a leather or a suede type of holster with sticky stuff on the outside, a little bit kind of grippy stuff. You can actually put that in your pocket, put your gun in there in that holster, and then when you draw your gun, the holster will remain behind in your pocket. And it's because you always want to protect that trigger, even if it's in your pocket. Same way with a purse or a bag. Go buy yourself if you're going to carry that way, anyone, go buy yourself a concealed carry purse. It's going to have a separate pocket in there. That's the only thing you put in there is your firearm. It's got a little holster, usually the velcros or snaps or attaches somehow that you stick your gun in to hold your gun in place. That's going to be the safe way to do it. But if you carry in a bag, you are responsible for that bag. That bag does not leave your shoulder, your neck, or however you got it slung over you. You don't just set that down. That is part of you. You can't chance unattended hands getting a hold of that gun. And we heard story a few years back of bad things happening. That gun does not stay in the shopping cart. It is attached to you at all times.
10 minutes away from 10 o'clock. And of course, John and Todd are answering your questions today. It's 30. And we have a caller joining us. And caller, you're on the air. You're up next. All right, I think the caller decided to dial back in, so we'll go over to the rollover line. Caller, you're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
I just have a comment. Many years ago, there was a woman who came into Sun Valley and was teaching classes to some women up there, and she talked to me, and I designed a holster that would fit on a woman's purse so that it was very available, and that design should still be available because she was going to go ahead and have it manufactured after I designed it. So I don't know, but your men will probably know whether it's still available or not. Thank you.
Yeah, there's, there's a lot of different designs out there, and I'm not exactly specific what the one you're mentioning, but there's a lot of different designs, and it sounds to me like it's just kind of the one I was describing. It's an attached holster in a separate pocket, or just an attached holster inside the purse that holds that gun at the right cant and everything, and makes it available to get out in a moment's notice, as long as you train for it. So yeah, that design and other designs are out there.
We have another caller, I believe, looking to join our program. And caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX, and you can go ahead.
Is that me?
It sure is.
Great. This is Rick. I'm not going to use my last name for obvious reasons, but I actually followed John over to Washington Pond from a previous gun store. And John, you can chime in here, but I bought, to say the least, more than a few firearms from you guys over the years. Hello?
Oh, yeah, we know who Rick is.
Okay, I couldn't tell if you were hearing me or not. And those gentlemen over there just take great care of their customers. Just wanted to give them an attaboy. There's all kinds of fun things in there, firearms and knives, electronic surplus, and Forrest and those guys, they really know how to price the merchandise right. I've been in there a couple of times to pick up something I saw the day before, and it was gone. So they do move some inventory through there, and it's just a really good resource locally for everybody. I just wanted to give you guys an attaboy on that. So
good shout out there this morning. Want to point out very quickly, we're coming close to the end of the program. Got about 5 solid minutes left before we wrap up today. And I do want to thank the callers for chiming in. Before we do wrap up, I don't know if the two of you have anything specifically you wanted to still tend to today. We don't want to leave anything on the table, obviously.
We've gotten some questions about buying gifts and some buying guns online, and we just wanted to hit on it real quick. There's some pros and cons to buying online. Obviously, if you can buy something local, that's the way to go because you get warranties here, you get people you can actually come talk to, you can put your hand on the gun. Now if you're looking for something that's kind of weird or it's hard to get, you're going to have to go online or something like that. And at Washington Street Pawn, we do transfers, and what that is you buy the gun from whoever's selling it online, and then they will ship it to us. You do the paperwork with us for the background check, and then then the gun's yours. Pretty simple. Just if you want to buy a gun online, give us a call, and we'll set it up. And it's pretty painless.
You should probably you could give them a review of who you're dealing with online too, right? You could tell them.
Yeah,
whether they're reputable.
if you call me and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this gun on this website, we'll tell you, hey, we've transferred from before, they're good to go. If you're going on Gunbroker, That's kind of Gunbroker is kind of a buyer beware site. So you just want to come ask us. The other thing with Gunbroker you want to look at is, uh, are you buying from a reputable FFL holder? It'll say it right on there. The big thing there, you want to check the shipping. We had a guy, he bought a gun on Gunbroker, and they want to charge him $70 to ship it. So that yeah, it was a good price, but they made it up on the shipping. So there's things like that. But come in, talk to us. And usually we can always match or beat the price. Plus, any gun we sell, new or used, we're going to guarantee that as long as you own that. So that's one of the benefits to buying local here.
I get the gun broker emails on a daily basis, and I also get, I think it's Todd Schmidt, and I get the emails, and I can kind of keep track of what's going on. But that was a question I had. Who can you basically trust? Speaking of Todd's, Todd Eccles, we mentioned that you had a class 2 weeks ago. You wrapped up one.
Yeah.
You got another one probably soon.
Yeah, my next one is actually on December 17th. And that one is not full yet, but man, I've been getting phone calls every single day on that. So if you want in that class before Christmas, just let me know. You can call me at area code 620-794-6223. You can find me, you can call me or text me there. You can find me on Facebook. I will also, by the end of the day or tomorrow morning, I should know about my January class. I should know the date on it. I'm just waiting for approval on it. And hopefully, if you make my January class, I won't have my own range yet, but I'm going to have my classroom up and going. And
You're doing a little work on some of this stuff.
I'm doing a little work. I'm trying to just buckle down this month and get this thing done. I'm going to hide for Christmas and finish this thing up. So it'd be fantastic to see you out there.
When you go through the class, how long does it take to get that permit?
The class is 8 hours, and then you go and apply for the permit. When you apply for the permit, they say they have up to 90 days, but somewhere along the way, they sped up the delivery of the permit. I think I could be wrong, and Sergeant Sugden is probably going to be upset if I say, because then everyone's going to expect. I think last I heard was like 3 or 4 weeks, but I could be wrong. He's going to tell you 90 days to cover his base, but
Right.
I've heard him happening really quick lately.
Sometimes guest on our program too, by the way. I've got a business card on my desk.
Oh, he's going to yell at me.
Yeah.
We'll squeeze in one last caller. We've only got about 90 seconds to go, so caller, you got to make it quick. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Alrighty. I've already got an enhanced concealed permit there. What would it take to just have a class in the field, just to brush up in the field? That's all I got.
No problem. All you got to do is give me a call. We won't talk about it on the air, but give me a call and we can set something up, figure out what it is you need, and tailor a class to fit you. You can give me a call, area code 620-794-6223. Let me know.
And that's not a bad idea, is to get a refresher every now and then. And we've talked before about how people get into a bad habit, and that habit sticks with them.
Well, yeah, and I tailor classes to whatever people need. I don't have a list of classes necessarily, but if someone says, "Hey, me and another guy want to take a class. This is what we need. We know how to shoot. We need help on this, or look and see what I'm doing wrong." I can tailor something to whatever you need.
And by the way, stop by the shop too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just wanted to mention we are getting a ton of people ordering guns for Christmas and gifts. So if you want something for Christmas, get in quick because we are ordering and ordering and ordering, and gun companies are getting a little behind on shipping stuff out. So I'd say within the next week or so to get it by Christmas.
I was going to say, get it by Christmas, and then you can take Todd's course in January.
Ask them for a business card. We can get you a gift certificate.
Well, to say thank you to both of these gentlemen for joining us again today. We'll do this all over again next week on Friday morning between 9 and 10 o'clock. Bill Colley with you as well. I do want to thank John Statler for filling in one more time. You do a fine job, I've got to say.
I appreciate it.
It's like you're a pro. I mean, some people are just born to do this. Todd Eccles, of course, had this experience many, many years ago, and then he got wise and went into another line of work.
John's going to tell Forrest I need a ticket to SHOT Show.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get one too. Yeah.
If I go to Vegas, I don't think I'm coming back. We've got a break for news coming up from Fox, followed by Rush Limbaugh, and of course, God willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be allowed to come back and do this all over again on Monday morning between 8 and 10 o'clock, right here on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.